Hey everyone, Beacon here with the Point Mechanic channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the new FPC rope from Flowtoys. FPC was made specifically for Flowtoys by the same company who makes VPC. And it's got the same jacket as the VPC, but it now has a polyester core instead of the Vectrin core. Now, VPC is a great rope. I've been using it for many years. Lots of poi spinners do. It's got great characteristics. Number one, it's really nice and soft and easy on your hands. It's kind of got a slick feel to it. I've found other synthetic ropes kind of rough up your hands a little bit. This doesn't seem to very much in my experience. It's nice and flexible. It also has a stiff characteristic, so when you're doing a toss, it's especially noticeable. Like your rope just straightens itself out, and so it's great for doing contact because it's got that flexibility. But it's great for doing tosses because the rope straightens out and the handle lands exactly where you want it to. Other rope that I'd used in the past, it would twist when I let go of the handle, and so the handle wouldn't always land in my hand the way I wanted it to, but this stuff does every time. So it's a great rope. You can use it for contact, tosses, whip catches, tether traps, tangles, orbitals. It pretty much does everything except for melt. And that's because of the Vectrin core. The core has a different melting temperature than the polyester jacket. So when you try to melt the cap on it to fasten it to your head or your capsule, it just doesn't do it very well. So I usually use epoxy to make my cap, and it's just not very user-friendly for the do-it-yourselfer. So that's why Flowtoys came out with this. They'll sell it by the foot, so if you want to use this on your own setup and adjust it, you can do that easily now. Like say you get it a little too long and trying to figure out your style, you can now just chop a little bit off at a time and keep melting that cap until you get it just perfect. They also make conversion kits. So say you have a Flow Moja or capsule handles or even pod poi. If you want a thicker rope on pod poi, they have a conversion kit for this now. And let me tell you, it's a whole other experience when you're spinning the thicker rope on the pod poi. It's really, really enjoyable. If you are on that listing on their website and you don't see the prop that you need this made for, talk to them. I'm sure they can actually make it for you. This will come standard on their Flow Moja LED contact heads or contact poi, the 100mm glitter bomb contact poi, and the Vision Vision Meteor poi, which are really awesome. I can't wait to get a set like that because they're just really flashy. But anyways, I'm going to be switching over to this rope on this particular set. I kind of want to make these smaller. This is set up for doing contact, and it's a great setup, but I want to switch up my style a little bit on this particular set. I'm a really big fan of Levi Davidson. He's like my favorite spinner out there right now. And last time I was hanging out with him, he was doing all these bounce moves and stuff. That's kind of what his style is. And he was saying you really want it to like hit right there and bounce. Where these, they kind of go over. So I'm going to shorten these up. And right now I'm going to show you how easy it is to melt the cap on the end. Okay, to put a cap on the end of your rope is actually pretty easy. All you'll need is a lighter, some way to cut it. In this case, I use a razor blade, and then some tape. I like using electrical tape. For me, though, I'm going to put a bearing on first, and that's because I use these reactor flux handles from Lost in Flow. This is a 3D printed handle with a rubberized grip. It takes the Flowtoys capsule light, and it has an inline bearing for doing orbitals. To get this on, though, it's a little bit of a tight squeeze, and if you have tape on the end, it's not going to want to slide on there very easy. So what I recommend doing is pulling the core out of the opposite end of your rope just a little bit by pinching on your rope, and then using the jacket to slide down the core. It'll bunch up, and once the core starts showing, just pinch on the core and the jacket like that, and then pinch on the rope and slide it down. And what that'll do is it'll pull the core inside, making the end a little bit smaller to be able to slide the bearing on first. And then once it gets to the core, it's a little tighter, and then it'll slide on. This is just a demo piece, but yeah, it's going to be extra short, but this will work. Now what I want to do is cut the rope, but I want to put a marker on the rope where I want the cap to be, which is going to be this marker right here. Next, I'm going to take the tape again and go right above that marker, and then wrap it tight. And this is why I like using electric tape, is because the tape stretches a little bit and it makes the fibers get
nice and constricted, and I like that because if you have loose tape on there or no tape and you try to cut it, then your fibers kind of go all over the place. Now I'm going to cut it about 1/4 of an inch above where my marker is, which is about halfway up a piece of electrical tape. And I'm going to do that with a razor blade. I like using a razor blade just because it seems to get the cleanest cut. Then I'm going to take the tape off that end piece there. Expose the fibers, and then I'm going to do that to flare them out a little bit. Next, I'm going to take my lighter and just start melting it. I'm going to twist the rope all the way around so that it evenly melts the rope. And you want to get the outer edges of the fibers melted and also the inner part of the core at the same time. So hold the flame about like that and just rotate. You can use a torch, but a torch is going to burn hotter and you risk the chance of damaging your rope. You can still even damage the rope with a lighter, so you got to be careful. If you see it start to smoke, turn black, or bubble, that means you're getting it too hot, and then when it solidifies, it's going to be brittle. So be careful not to do that. So what I'm looking for is a nice shiny finish. That means it's melted pretty good. And I also don't want to see any gaps between the fibers. Once it looks like it's one solid piece, that's when you take a flat surface and then press the end against it. I use a metal surface because it makes it solidify right away and cools it down. Now, this does get really hot, so be careful. Wear gloves if you're not comfortable with it. Now, for me, I like putting a cap between the battery and the case like that. There is a little bit of an area right here you can put a cap in, but it's a little harder to get to match to that. And if you've widened your capsule end out to fit the bigger rope, you really don't have as much to grab onto there. So if you do it this way, it's pretty easy. You just get the cap flat and it should fit in behind there. Now, make sure that the capsule closes on it. If for whatever reason it doesn't, it probably means that this is out around. And what you do then is hold the rope like that and then light it and just get the edges. You don't really need to melt the center anymore. So just twist it like that till you get it melted again, and then roll it against a flat surface like that. Now, if you're doing it like I'm doing it with the bearing here, we want to make sure that the bearing fits flush against that cap. So take the tape off and then run the bearing up against it. And this is actually going to work pretty good. You don't want it to be too high because then you risk the chance of it touching the capsule when it's spinning. So about like that is good. But you'll also want to make sure that you spin it like this and make sure that there's nothing rubbing against your rubber seal here. If there is, what I recommend is pulling this out and then taking like a fingernail file and just taking down any edges, being careful not to hit your non-melted fibers. Also, if it is too high on one side, say you didn't get your cut clean or whatever, what you can do is hold it like this again and then just get the entire top surface going around. You don't want to hold it like that because your flame can actually damage your seal on your bearing. So make sure the flame doesn't go below the lip of the cap. Get it melted again, and then use the bearing to press against it, and that'll get you a perfectly flat cap. So yeah, pretty easy.
So if you guys have any questions, just leave it in the comments section below. If you like the video, hit that like button. And if you want a discount code at flowtoys.com, you can use POI Mechanic, all one word, and it's all capitalized. I really appreciate you all watching, and I will see you next time.